Source: Inspector. Hey guys, and welcome to AniRecapz, presented by Anime Beta. Subscribe and like for more quality uploads. Our 11-year-old main female protagonist, Kotoko Yuanaka, wakes up to the voice of God, or so we thought. Fast forward a few years, we see the girl at the hospital bumped into the main protagonist, Koro, who she quote-unquote saved his life from a nasty fall that would have potentially killed him, or worse, made him a vegetable. By the way, did we mention, this show moves fast? Because it sure was fast how our small loli main character fell in love with the guy at first sight. Sadly, though, she later discovered that he had a girlfriend, yet through the nurse's gossip she managed to keep close tabs on him and his love life. 2 years later, while Kotoko was on her way to the hospital for her usual routine checkup, she met Koro, who was sitting all alone on a bench. Surely she won't let such an opportunity slip by her hands, because it turns out that even though the boy was on really good terms with his girlfriend, and also adding the fact they were planning to get engaged, suddenly broke up. After Kotoko persistently kept asking Koro for the reason they broke up, he answered one night while strolling next to the river they encountered a kappa, which Kotoko explains is harmless and somewhat a coward, but he didn't know that at the time, so he did what the average normal man would do. He ran away, and that's why the hottie broke up with him. Though Kotoko sensed it was a cap, and the one that ran away was the kappa. See what I did there? Kappa. Never mind. The loli then reveals that most yokai are actually terrified of the man, and would do anything to steer away from where he is. When he asks her how she is even sure about all this, she tells him 6 years ago. When she was 11, she was kidnapped by yokai who were definitely not into lolis. Gotta make that clear though. They were seeking her wisdom, and I guess the yokai folk liked the outcome of their decision so much that they ended up cutting her left leg and taking her right eye to make her the goddess of wisdom. However, Koro tells her to F off, but she insists and tells him to check the library for the news of her incident years ago. While leaving, she encounters a deceased samurai that has quite a passion for reading romance novels, yet his love for romance novels is being interrupted thanks to a rogue yokai terrorizing other yokai and humans. As the mediator of yokais, she couldn't ignore the call for help and decided to check the library for herself and assess the situation. When she got there, she found Koro was already there confirming the story of her kidnap incident, so she asked for his help in subduing the yokai. He reluctantly agrees and goes off with her. Kotoko is usually able to solve such issues by talking or scolding the yokai, but this bull monster went mad and didn't give a rat's ass to what she had to say. Luckily, Koro turned out to be what's known as the OP main character, as he let the monster eat his hand thinking it would be a nice snack to cool it down. Which apparently was not, as the monster dissolved, while Kuro's arm regenerated. So being the goddess of wisdom, Kotoko wisely asks what he is. Koro explained that when he was 11, he ate 2 different types of yokai, and that is why his meaty ass is poisonous to the yokai. The next day, Koro visited his sick cousin at the hospital, where he explained to Kotoko that he had devoured the flesh of a mermaid yokai, which turns a mortal person into an immortal. But the second yokai he ate nullified the no growing up part, and turned it into nothing but a healing factor when asked, what was the second yokai? He kept its name a secret. The chit-chat got cut short when Kotoko got summoned by a giant serpent living in a swamp located in the mountains, so she asked for Koro's help, but this time he shut her down for real. But she followed him to find out why he declined. Talk about being so persistent. I really wish I'd get a girl like that who will follow me every day. Jokes aside. It turns out the man put soup first before the girl's safety. Not wanting his peaceful meal to get disturbed, he ends up giving her a jacket, a thermos with soup in it, as well as some rice for her journey. Later, she meets up with the giant snake and discovers that his concern was towards the motives of a woman that killed someone and dumped him in the swamp before saying, "I really hope that they would find you." So, a sort of theory game began with Kotoko on one side and the snake on the other, devising possible scenarios and trying to discover the killer's motives. I'll not go into details since this would take at least 10 minutes due to how stupid the snake god was with his stupid questions, so we'll just cut to the chase. The woman killed a man who was responsible for the death of her boyfriend. Or so we thought until the one-eyed loli theorized it was the man-brother who avenged her BF death. She took the blame since the brother still had his life ahead of him, while she has nothing left. And regretting the line, the woman said, "I really hope that they would find you." It was meant for the snake god. She hoped the snake god sees the body, which she dropped in the lake, get angry and makes it rain, so any traces of the killing or the killer gets erased. Our worried MC then goes to the mountain to see if she's okay. But seeing how she was tying all the clues to solve the mystery like Sherlock rather made him impressed. She notices our MC and becomes glad that he came. All the monsters were feared by seeing him, as he still gives massive Kirito-ish dominance to those yokais. The snake says, "So that is our lady's boyfriend? How terrifying." Which MC replies to her saying, "I'm your boyfriend now." She says, "We can have our lovers quarrel for later." If this girl were ever to compete against any of those rom-com anime girls, she would undoubtedly win. The snake was still not convinced, so our cute Detective Loli came up with the final theory to close the case like Detective Conan. The woman had dumped something precious years ago in that lake. So she did that to the body in hopes that the police would find him when they thoroughly searches the lake for the killer's weapon. The snake asked what that thing might be. Kotoko explains it was the body of the woman's miscarried infant. She wanted to find it to give it a proper burial after being swallowed by guilt for getting rid of it the way she did. The lie was a realistic scenario and plausible enough for the snake to take the bait and accept it as the truth behind what the woman said whilst dumping the body. 2 years passed after that event. We see a girl in an idol suit carrying a steel beam with her face concealed randomly appearing on the road and causing a car crash. The police investigate what went down. The victim's first testimony is that it was a girl idol with some serious killer knockers holding a steel beam in hand. He later changed the testimony, claiming it was only a dog.
What the dog doing?
However, unfortunate for him, the cop on the case was Saki, our MC Koro's ex-girlfriend. So she knows for a fact that such things do exist, and that it could be the spirit of a deceased idol that was killed by steel beams, which was deemed as an accident. However, her colleague, who has a crush on her, doesn't believe in the supernatural stuff, and thinks that it is someone in disguise doing these works, and they have ulterior motives. On her way home, Saki encountered our main girl, Kotoko, who is squaring it off with none other than Steel Lady Nanase. MC's EX decided to help even though she was scared beyond shitless. She charged at the Steel Lady, attacking her only to discover that her attacks doesn't connect, and it goes directly through her. Kotoko then jumps in to save her and put that busty lady back to where she belongs. But in doing so, her prosthetic leg came off. Thankfully, the one-legged spider monkey delivered one nasty kick right to the ghost's face, forcing it to flee. Kotoko then addresses Saki, telling her to forget what she saw, before telling the hottie to not contact the cops, as she doesn't want the hassles of dealing with them. Yup, funny enough, Kotoko didn't know she was talking with Saki, who is an actual cop. Upon knowing, Kotoko jokingly wishes she hadn't saved her in the first place. Adding insult to injury, Shorty introduces herself as Koro's current girlfriend, pissing Saki off. Saki drags Kotoko to her apartment for answers, and to check on Koro's latest news. So typically she doesn't believe Kotoko, one bit after claiming to be Koro's new girlfriend, ruling her out as nothing but an annoying stalker that doesn't know when to quit. And after Saki discovered that Koro had been missing for a week, a petty argument between the two starts as to whom is the better girlfriend for Koro. Kotoko ends the argument with a witty remark taunting Seki, who got so pissed and slammed the door in her face. So to confirm her suspicions, she needed credible and accurate information that only the police had access to, which is Saki. Thus, Kotoko sent a tree spirit that doesn't know what indoor noise is to ask Saki for help. And knowing she might reject the help, Spirit told her that Lady Kodo will keep sending the Red Smurfs, who apparently are many in numbers, to her house, and so Saki agreed to meet her. Back to the best girl, while having a meal at a restaurant, a spirit relays to Kotoko that the busty lady has been spotted near their area, to which she rushes to on the double. Shockingly enough, Kotoko reaches the location only to discover that Koro is locked in a fierce battle with her. While those two fought, Saki arrives only to witness Koro's head smashed by a steel beam, which later regrows, and of course, the man carries on the fight as if nothing happened. I mean, like, seriously. What the hell is this regeneration ability? Even Deadpool doesn't heal that fast.
I'm about to do something terrible.
Koro is ready to duke it out. He rushes at that busty ghost girl who swings her beam at him, but he perfectly dodges it and grabs her in an arm lock from behind, cracking her neck. Saki is dumbfounded by how exactly he managed to pull off such a dodge, to which Kotoko finally reveals to us the second yukai Koro ate the Kuden. This yukai is as ugly as they come. It has the body of a cow, but the face of a human. Yet this ugliness is overlapped with its extraordinary ability of clairvoyance, which is a fancy word for seeing the future. These creatures always seem to predict the future with utter perfection. Alas, this prediction is at the cost of their own lives, something Koro has an abundance of thanks to the mermaid flesh he ate. To further explain, Koro came from a clan obsessed with the Kuden and its powers of clairvoyance. The clan's head lived his whole life experimenting and trying to find a way for humans to inherit this powerful ability without them dying almost instantly. Years pass, and the all experiments end up in a failure, which stops them. Or so we thought. Apparently, Koro's grandmother still carried on with their ancestors' experiments and ended up killing all of their household children in the process, excluding our main boy Koro, of course. With this sad backstory over, let's get back to the current timeline, where Nanase is once again on her feet after healing back almost as fast as our main character Deadpool. Which means it's time for round 3. Introducing a faceless mommy with giant milkers versus an emotionless guy that is too sad to die. I know just hearing the fighter's powers makes me hyped up. Sadly, though, it didn't happen, because when Kotoko interfered, Nanase dipped out, disappearing into thin air. Back at the X house with the three, Kotoko explained everything about Koro to her confused and terrified Saki. The reason why yukai fear our boy and steer away from him is that for them, he doesn't look like a normal human. Rather, he looks like a mermaid, Kuden, and a human thing with scary eyes mixed up in a blender, which to an actual yukai and monsters is more monstrous, which raises the question why Lady Nanase was not scared of him. Thanks to the power of the internet, after stumbling by a website dedicated to Lady Nanase earlier, she concluded that this being is a monster of the imagination. The monster of the imagination is a being that isn't real and doesn't exist, however, due to many people believing in its existence and giving it a name. These imaginations became a reality, and such a creature is born. However, as opposed to a yukai, when the rumors cool down and the people stop believing in that being of imagination, it will lose its form, and just like how it came from nothing, I will eventually go back to nothing. And this explains why Nanase is so powerful and almost invulnerable to anything. It's all because of her dedicated horny fan base website with millions of followers. The first step to defeating an enemy is first to know that said enemy, and now they know what Nanase is, they can devise a plan to finally beat her and get rid of her using that same website that empowers her as the means to destroy her boobs. After all, she is a thought of the mind and imagination. So, in turn, if Kotoko manages to plant the seeds of deception and doubt to convince the majority on the form that Lady Nanase isn't real, then they would actually defeat her. But that said, such a plan comes with lots of legal implications and issues. So for the plan to work, they must prepare a well-written fabricated story backed up with real evidence and events to make it acceptable as a truth in the eyes of the readers. However, the implications of that plan include lots of requirements to work, such as the suspect in their fabricated story that they will be framing can't be someone innocent, since it could lead to legal actions from the police. The second issue was that they needed their story to be fail-proof, with no loopholes whatsoever that could be exploited and, in turn, shatter the whole theory. And that was where Saki came in. Though reluctant, she allowed Kotoko to take a look at the police investigations, which also ruled out the steel beams falling on Nanase as a mere accident. However, the statement of Karen's sister and her constant claims that Nanase would never kill herself in such a manner, which drove a wrench in the investigation. To solve this problem, the trio headed to the construction site to check for any clues in the matter. Kotoko then summons a yokai as an eyewitness in Magical Girl style, which is both cringe and unnecessary, but was kinda funny though. Once the spirit showed up, Saki gets scared again and decided to sit this one out. According to the yokai, Nanase was indeed crushed by those beams. However, it was somewhat of suicide, since she saw them coming and decided to stay put, accepting her grim end. Saki disagreed with their methods, saying the public won't believe the story due to the witness being a ghost. And that is where Koro and his clairvoyance come in. Even though he will have to channel his inner Subaru and die many times over and over, he still agreed to do so to find the appropriate future. Koro then further elaborates how his powers of a Kuden work. The Kuden doesn't predict the future, instead it filters out countless possible futures that branch out like a tree and picks one of them, the most plausible one, and the moment they do so, all other vines disappear, and only one path, the one they chose, is left intact. With all the pieces in place to fix the situation, they only pray that nothing happens, and funny enough, the writer decided to fuck things up for our trio, complicating things for them even more by killing off the sergeant. The guy who works with Saki and had a crush on her is now crushed after facing the power of the booba. After the routine investigation held by the cops to find the culprit in the murder, rumors spread out on the forum that she killed him with her steel beam, while others claimed that she chased them in the streets. This change of events granted Nanase even more believers' power, and thus the trio predicted that she will become much more violent, and they needs to defeat her tonight before anyone else dies or suffers a similar fate as the sergeant. Koro gave Kotoko the genius idea of creating multiple rumors and spreading them instead of just one, leaving the members in the forum themselves to come up with the culprit's identity and the one responsible for all of it. And since they would fight amongst each other, this will weaken their belief in the existence of the being of imagination known as Steel Lady Nanase. That said, Kotoko collapsed from sleep deprivation, so Kuro and Seiki left the room for her to rest for a while since she needed to be at full strength for tonight. In the elevator, Saki questions Kuro's relationship with Kotoko since she never knew him to be a lolicon. So he tells her how they started dating 2 years ago, which is around the time they broke up. Although he didn't want to go out, but her persistence just worked out and they became a couple. Shocked Saki adds, "I never knew she was your type, considering you liked your cousin Rika." Sweet home Alabama moment right there, boys. Love how this quickly turned into a sister-brother complex anime. Anyway, so, our MC revealed that Rika's still alive. She didn't know because after Saki left, she heard the news of his cousin passing away, which wasn't the case, as in fact Riko was just like him, an immortal being. When Kotoko woke up from her nap, her anxiety levels were off charts, sensing something naughty happened between the two, since they were acting weird around each other. Kotoko then explains to Saki that Rika's reason for being in the hospital was to medically analyze her powers and gain a better understanding of them. Kotoko then reveals that ever since she got released from the hospital, she has been living with her in her mansion, and that they were on such good terms too until a month ago when she disappeared and Koro followed suit 2 weeks later. Saki then deduces that Rika somehow created Nanase, hence Koro has been trying to stop her. That's why he was in the same city and fighting Nanase on that night. Only for Kotoko to further reinforce her claims by revealing that the online image of Nanase was one of Rika's paintings. Kotoko has been suspecting for a while that Rika is behind it all. When Saki asked about the motives behind creating this thing, Best Girl said, "I guess she just simply wanted to test how far her Kyudan abilities can go." Later, the girls are informed that Lady Nanase got sighted, so they rush over to her whereabouts for the final confrontation to begin. Kotoko spreads the rumors, Saki monitors the flow of the forum, and Koro fights Steel Lady Nanase all night long, dying many times in the process to find a suitable future in which Rika loses and Nanase ceases to exist. The gang knows their roles and plays them accordingly, especially Kotoko, who begins her counterattack with her first story in hopes of swaying the forum's readers' beliefs. The first story went as follows. the detective's death was all deliberate and planned in a way that it looked like it was done by Steel Lady Nanase, by making his death similar to the way Karen Nanase died. Her theory was that the killer has been close to the detective since they knew how he thinks, his schedule, to be able to plan ahead of time. They created the persona of Nanase months earlier just to get rid of him and remove any suspicions that could lead to them. The killer in this theory utilized a pendulum with a sturdy metal piece fixed to it. After being measured in a way that would exactly hit the detective straight in his face and shatter it before he even could react. Some of the forum readers take the bait, while the rest counter-arguments with convincing reasons to shut down her theory due to lack of motive, thanks to the interruptions and meddling of Rika, who was searching for possible futures that would suit her, as well as posting herself anonymously just to destroy the theory Kotoko came up with. Funny enough, though, the suspect Kotoko created was a female cop, which was basically Saki. During the debate, Koro dies twice, and every time he attempts to grab a thread of fate, it is cut off by Rika, yet he still manages to disarm Nanase, which was clear evidence of her slowly weakening. With the first theory gone with the wind, it was time for Kotoko to initiate her second rumor. This time Kotoko discards all evidence, facts, and truths, and just goes off full-out fantasy fiction style. Kotoko's rumor this time was based on the lie that Nanase is a ghost that regrets being accused of her father's death and is trying through her actions to convince everyone that she didn't do it. She then explains that the writings in the father's journal of his daughter wanting to kill him is nothing but a delusion boosted by inferiority complex he suffered from after starting to live in the shadow of his daughter, adding that he decided to kill himself and frame his own daughter for doing it as a means to get back at her. Kotoko then explains that after Karen Nanase's death, she met her father, and let's just say it was not in heaven. I refuse to think that this man got access tickets there, so let's put it as, after seeing her somewhere in the afterlife, he confessed why he did all that he did, causing her to feel betrayed enough to return as a vengeful spirit. And to finish that story route, Kotoko asked everyone on the forum to pray for her soul to finally find rest and salvation. Koro then dies and manages to grab a faint strand of future that is favorable for the trio, and so the prayers started flooding the forum, weakening Nanase even more. Yet this fight was far from over. After all, this is Rika's home turf, and just like that she gains back control over the forum flow. Enter theory number 3. This time the rumor revolved around the testimony of Hatsume Nanase, the sister of Karen Nanase. Hatsume was convinced that her sister would never die in the manner she did, or would reach a low point she would kill herself. Everything was going fine, especially since she added that Nanase was actually alive and had faked her death to get back at her sister for spreading the rumors of killing her father, which ruined Karen's career and destroyed her image. Everything was going fine until Rika entered the chat with a strand of fate. She countered the theory, which turned the tables on Kotoko and prevented Koro from grabbing the future strand. Since she shattered the possibility of such a future completely. Yup, the Aizen wannabe predicted it all so far. But what she didn't predict or know about is that it's all just a part of a greater plan. Entering Phase 4, the final rumor, Karen Nanase is still alive and kicking, hence the one that died was a body double that had similar features to her when it came to her body. And with the face smashed completely, no dental records could be taken, and the lack of personal info on the body made identification impossible, reinforcing the theory further. At that moment, Saki figured out the trap Kotoko had set up for Rika, and that she manipulated her to choose the futures she wanted her to choose right off from the beginning. Even the future that Koro thought to have shattered and disappeared thanks to Kotoko's meticulous planning manifested again, and Koro was able to grab it this time. Kotoko then carries on with her blatant yet believable lie that Nanase killed someone. That looked like her and, in turn, took over their life as well as changed how she looks. Then to convince everyone of her death, Nanase created Steel Lady Nanase to add more authenticity to the lie, which is her death. And before anyone could refute her theory, she linked all the events to the detective's death as someone in the wrong place at the wrong time. This turn of events caused an uproar on the forum. Everyone seemed convinced that Steel Lady Nanase wasn't real, so as a final nail in the coffin, Kotoko claimed that the website and forum are run by none other than Nanase herself, to then challenge the website owner, Rika, to come up with any counter theory or prove her wrong. Just like that, Rika's hold over the strand of fate falters, and Steel Lady Nanase became considerably weakened enough for Koro to rip her face apart with her steel beam until she completely fades from existence, saving the day. And ending the menace known as Steel Lady Nanase, Big Booba Monster, the Deadly Watermelons Lady. Okay, sorry, I will stop now. Accepted her defeat, Rika sends Kotoko an email admitting she lost this time, adding she will be returning soon. You know the usual, you may have won the battle but not the war scenario, type of villain that pulls at the end. On the next day, Saki finds that Rika shut down the website due to not getting decent ad revenue, and people are now concerned with theories about Nanase being alive and still out there somewhere. After that whole mess got sorted, Koro invited Saki to dinner, while Kotoko slept soundly after suffering from mental exhaustion in her fight with Rika on the forum. During their dinner, Koro explained that the reason Rika was hospitalized for years was to become human again, adding Steel Lady was just an experiment. She aims to create a god, powerful enough to grant her that wish. He then elaborates why he went to deal with Rika alone. It was to protect Kotoko from danger, and that now since Rika knows Kotoko had a hand in her downfall, she might try to come for her. After dinner, Saki feels that this is the last time she might see the lover boy, and for the first time, she is free of her fear of the unknown, thanks to the reassurance that Kotoko and Koro will handle it and will preserve the peace and balance in the world. Kotoko then wakes up after a whole day and a half to reveal that she got her acceptance letter into Koro's college. She promises that when Rika resurfaces and tries anything funny, they will be ready to stop her for good this time because after all, upholding balance is her duty as the goddess of wisdom. And with this, we end our video today. We'll continue the next part in 2023, as the Season 2 was officially announced. Hopefully you all will stay hyped for that next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay tuned with our channel. Until then, stay safe. Bye.